Okay, great. So today I'm going to walk through using Drupal really as a learning management system. I suppose, firstly, just a little bit of background myself. There's sort of two key motivations behind why I'm interested in education and technology. I've been a Drupal developer since Drupal 4.6, have loved working with the platform, and secondly, have had a keen interest in education and in theories around learning, how we can sort of improve learning and teaching. And they're the sort of motivations around that. I run a company that provides a software as a service solution built on Drupal, but the talk today is going to be really fairly agnostic and focused just on the different modules, tools, and use cases, really the motivations behind what makes a good learning experience versus what might not. So I broke up this talk into three key parts. The first is, why is learning important? So again, just sort of covering some of the sort of applications and motivations behind why we might want to invest in tools and systems to support learning, particularly in a corporate or government environment. Some techniques to create and curate content, particularly different modules that are available on Drupal.org, different online services. And then I'll jump into a case study, hopefully just to add a couple of examples to that of a project that we did up in Queensland. So, why is learning important? There's, I suppose, a very traditional view of learning, particularly if you think of K-12 education, you think of university education. It might feature a lot of books. I was in a session just before from the National Library of Australia, and just the countless books that are being indexed. And then you think of corporate learning. You think of learning from a sort of government perspective. You think of learning from an enterprise perspective. And I've got to ask for your forgiveness. I'm going to rely on Dilbert a lot throughout the presentation. So what are the motivations behind e-learning and learning management from a corporate perspective? And I'd argue that, yes, one part of it is from a compliance perspective. It is a mechanism to manage risk, to make sure that certain competencies and processes are understood. But also learning is much more important than that. At the core of it, investing in people, investing in professional development is strongly linked, perhaps unsurprisingly, with employee satisfaction. It's strongly linked with productivity. And it's strongly linked with creating more innovative, more responsive environments. And certainly it seems to be, innovation seems to be the buzzword of the year, at least down here. And so what I wanted to spend what I'm going to spend this talk discussing is how we might achieve some of the above and what role Drupal might play in that. And just to sort of have a little icon wherever there's a module or something which I think is worth taking note of, I've just popped it in a little Drupal icon to reference that particular module name as we go through. So again, not spending too much time setting the scene, I think we can all sort of appreciate the basics of why learning might be important, why, at least from a compliance perspective, it's something that we may need to do, but two, how can we actually do good online learning? How can we create really good environments within a learning management system, whether it's Drupal or not? And again, it's going back to that first point of creating engaging content. So there's thousands of courses. I'm sure everyone can sort of put up their hand if you've had to sit through a course which consisted of just clicking through slide after slide and then answering a couple of basic questions at the end. And that consisted of, I don't know, Workplace Health and Safety 101, or it consisted of some other material. And I think there's much better ways of there's obviously much better ways of constructing online learning, which can actually be engaging, where you can actually get people involved and into the course, into the material, understand it, and then achieve something with it. And I wanted to touch on a couple of the different tools, particularly tools that interoperate with Drupal, that can support that, and I'll do a bit of a deep dive into one of those. And so I'm not sure if people have come across Mix. It's a little add-on for PowerPoint created by Microsoft, which is just a free add-on for PowerPoint, where you can suddenly create quizzes, you can create narrated videos, and you can author e-learning course objects, which you can then upload to a learning management system. There's a tool called Articulate, Storyline, Adobe Captivate, and one that I want to focus on, which has a fantastic little Drupal module, which is called H5P. And what it allows you to do is very, very quickly, once you've installed the module, is have access to a range of different learning resource types. So that might be a Word document, might be a quiz, or it might be some combination of combining, say, a video with a quiz. And so if you go to h5p.org, you can read more about that. It's a open source project by itself, but there is a Drupal module that clicks into that. And if technology is on our side, what we'll go through is just a quick video that was built out of H5P in action. So you can see as we're going through just a YouTube video, any YouTube video, you can add little markers over the top of that. Might be a quiz, so we might, and apologies, when I recorded this, my internet was horrendously slow. So we'll have to put up with the lag. I'll get the berry wrong. Might be a strawberry. And as we're going through, suddenly this YouTube content can now turn into an assessment. So you could do that with a TED video, you could do it with something really diverse, and it suddenly takes learning from being a PowerPoint with 100 clicks and 0 comprehension into something which you can make much more stimulating and engaging. And so I won't go through the whole video, but it's very, very easy just through a WYSIWYG editor to create out your own interactive, engaging learning content. And I'd suggest everyone try it if you've got an interest in creating engaging content. So maybe we've got the most engaging content out there in the world, but how can we actually assess comprehension? How can we assess competency? And that's an important question, particularly with that first topic I was talking about of compliance. That photo up there is actually, it's a real photo of Oxford University's examination rules. So no one ever reads those rules. It's, I think, 1,500 pages long, just telling you the rules to attend an examination. And so why it's up there is just to really say it's not a new question. How can we assess competency is not something that we need to solve for the first time in a digital context. There's a lot of lessons that we can learn. And it comes down to, well, what are the ways that we can really understand what someone else knows? So we can convey information, but unless we've got a way that is accurate, where we can really assess what is in someone else's head, it becomes very difficult around that. And the obvious module that comes to mind around this is the quiz module. So quiz module in Drupal makes it really easy to ask a whole bunch of different question types. I really don't expect people to read through all the different text up on the screen. Whether it be a multiple choice, whether it be a short answer question, whether it be a long answer question, or other question types that you might want to configure off that, suddenly you can get different ways of triangulating what someone's knowledge level is on a particular topic. And what we actually did with quiz in our product and for a number of the organizations we worked with is build out different quiz question types. And so one of the quiz question types that we built out was a video response question type. And you can imagine if, say, for example, you're an organization that might be looking to hire 1,000 people, screening 1,000 candidates for a certain role, maybe it's in retail or hospitality. Asking someone multiple choice questions might be great, but it might be insufficient. And so by adding in a video response question type, what we're able to do is allow someone to read a scenario on the screen and then just hit record and use their webcam to record their response to that scenario. And so it's always trying to think, what are the most effective ways to understand comprehension? What are the most effective ways to assess capability? And I think triangulating with a number of different mechanisms is really important. And obviously assessing competency sometimes goes beyond even that. It goes beyond just seeing a video of someone answering a question. It might go beyond a multiple choice or a short answer, or even an essay-style submission. One of our clients is St John Ambulance in Western Australia, and quite fortunately they do not offer a first aid course which you can just take online. I don't want anyone giving me CPR who has just watched a video on it. And so assessing competency is also about having records of practical capability as well. And so with Drupal, one of the great things about it is the flexibility in creating different entities, whether that be, say, a workshop competency or something else, where you can track and store that practical recognition of ability or training as well. So I've talked a lot about content creation and just a little bit around, say, quizzes and different ways of assessing material. But one element which I really wanted to, I suppose, reflect on is, while content creation is fantastic, what I would argue is almost better is content curation. And you can curate content by using best practice content from around the web, from materials that already exist. And sometimes it's not going to be applicable. So if you're looking to create, say, training on the vision or mission of your organisation or department, or the processes and procedures involved, no one else anywhere else in the world is going to have the right material for that. But if you're looking to provide material, whether it's in an internal intranet or on an internal learning management environment, then and say, for example, that might be on leadership skills or something of that nature, then there's a variety of high-quality course content that you can use from around the web. That could be as simple as a TED video. It could be, in the end, much more engaging than just using a PowerPoint that's been hastily prepared and tries to reinvent the wheel. So in the last 5 minutes, what I'll quickly do, and just trying to cram everything into time here, is a case study around an implementation that we did for the Queensland Government, principally for the emergency services, so fire, police, ambulance, and SES. And so this spanned training for both staff and volunteers, staff across many different roles, many different regions. It included both online and offline training, and to the point that I was saying before, you don't necessarily want to do just a first aid course completely online. Maybe a blended learning component is important, but sometimes courses may be entirely offline. Some courses needed to be as a once-off. Maybe it's someone's onboarding or induction only happens once in their tenure with an organisation, versus other material which might need to be recurring, and content which need to be aligned to roles. And the real sort of theme or focus around this was improving the state governments, the public and volunteers' preparedness around potential disasters. And so there were many flood events over the last couple of years, cyclones frequently in the north of Queensland. And how could a training system support educating, training, and preparing members of the emergency services and volunteers with that? So we've talked through content creation, we've talked through assessment. I'm not going to sort of dive into those elements as part of this case study. But one of the important elements which is unique to this case study, and I think it is, well, the example is unique but has applications more broadly, is the insight that you can then gain out of those two pieces. So if you've got really good engaging content, if you're asking interesting questions and assessing competency in a variety of ways, then allows you to report in ways which are much more sophisticated than just an Excel table, and allows you to ask feedback from staff in a more meaningful way, because you can understand where that sort of feedback is coming from, again with sort of appropriate sensibilities around using that data. And so in the Queensland Government example, it was important to be able to answer the question of whether there was visibility around disaster preparedness across regions. Are enough people in Cairns prepared if a cyclone was to hit? And also obviously eliciting feedback, and I think the web form module is a fantastic way of just very quickly creating a set of fields and questions and reporting on that. The other unique element here was around learning pathways, and that was providing direction around someone's progression in either the role that they're currently in or the role that they may be aspiring towards. And when you join either the fire, police or ambulance service, now you can see the courses and modules of learning that suit the role that are targeted at your current role, but also if you want to progress in your own professional development, see the learning pathways that you can take to aspire to different roles as well. And as you complete those learning pathways, as you complete a course, say as part of your onboarding process, and then progress to a different role in the organisation, that history is taken with you, so you never need to repeat or reset that particular piece of content again. It's recognised as already having been completed, and so it helps avoid repetition. So, some final thoughts. I think the dichotomy between online and offline training is a false one. What is more important than the medium that it's served through is that education and training is engaging and that it can accurately recognise comprehension. And finally, that curating content can be a very quick and easy way to create a better experience than having to create content and reinvent the wheel. Happy to answer any questions. I'm not sure if we've got time for any now. Otherwise, contact details are up here as well. Thank you all.